Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Amasid. We are back. 3.22 is nearly upon us. I'm excited. I'm very excited. And in today's video, I want to go over some interactions and some interesting just thoughts, ideas around this new node, overloaded circuits. So in 3.22, GGG introduced a lot of new keystones, but there's two keystones that I'm honing in on. The first one primarily is overloaded circuits. Now what this does here, we can read, it says, League map crafting options also choose 3 random notable Atlas passive skills associated with that league to treat as allocated 100% more cost. Now the other node that kind of complements this to some degree is the 7th gate. So that says when all possible league crafting options are available while 6 gateways are active. So there are 6, and you can see here, got 1, 2, 3, and then their corresponding other sides, 1, 2, 3. So literally that's how you activate all 6. And boom, you have access to all the map crafting options. Now I tried to avoid a flashbang here. Boom, let's go here. So looking at this, I wrote down, basically I'm trying to understand what are the best options for doing something with overloaded circuits. Did I say it right? Overloaded circuits, good, okay. What are the best options? Now, there's a lot of factors in play here. One is how good are these small passive skills that lead up to a given notable, the number of notables, the cost. Some of these costs are likely but not guaranteed. I assume they're just gonna be whatever costs they have been historically. The last couple leagues is what I used. But there's a lot of factors at play here, but I think I have a good idea of maybe the best ways to use this node. I was inspired by the conversation during the podcast yesterday where Pastor was mentioning that Essence only has 4 notables, so it could be a really good option for this. And I was like, well, I wonder what other, league mechanics could be good for this. So let's walk through it all. Just before we jump in there though, so essentially, to activate all 6 gateways and unlock the 7th gate, which is only necessary if you have a league start, or a strategy rather, that requires a map device option that is not available in 3.22. But this could be an option, and we'll go through those in a second here. But again, you don't need to do anything beyond activate them. So essentially, if you build a strategy that's entirely on the left side or entirely on the right side, you can just essentially take these, which are pretty on the way to a lot of other nodes, and essentially spend 3 extra points on the Atlas passive tree, which could maybe usually go towards like these quant nodes or maybe these modifier nodes. My point is you could probably squeeze 3 points out somewhere to get this if it's really important to your strategy to add that on. Now, so you can basically just take those 3 points and then go from there. Looking at these here, so these are all of the options available to us for the map device. Now, the cost, because this node reads, right, 100% more cost of map crafting options, basically we're gonna have to double the price of everything. So the ones that are orange highlighted here are ones that are on the map device right now, so you don't need the 7th gate to do this, but the ones that are not highlighted are, I use 3.21 data and 3.20 data to determine their cost, and I doubled them. So let's go through these here and we'll walk through why and what I think could be good. I'm sure you guys will have other ideas. Some of you guys might disagree with some of this. This is all speculative. It's just what comes to mind immediately as being a good option. And the cost and the notables are really key. But Expedition is just very expensive. You're gonna pay 20C to get an Expedition on to save a number of points. The Expedition nodes, there's not that many, so you could arguably, you'll get 3 out of the 5 at any given allocation, but it's probably not that good. For 20C, that's just too expensive. Delirium, there's so many notables on the tree that you're probably gonna hit a bunch of bad ones, and if you're guaranteeing Delirium, like you might hit the one, right, that just gives you a Delirium odds. And also 20C to get a Delirium on there is expensive, but it's not that crazy. I think there's just too many notables here to make that justifiable. Harvest is tricky, so this is speculative at the 24C, because it was 12C, I think, last league, or this league. 24C, the notables are weird with Harvest because you get stuff like this, right? Where is it? Here. So you get 25% chance reduced for purple pants, 25% reduced for yellow, 25% for blue. You kind of get the idea here. It'd be weird, like if you hit like 2 out of the 3 of those, and 3 of those, and you're not getting the plants you want, it doesn't really work, in my opinion. Blight, so Blight is just too expensive. Like I don't think it's worth it. Blight does have a lot of notables as well. I think this is just bad, even if you cut it in half. So for those who aren't aware, there is this notable here. So if you literally just spec into this and you take those points, you get a 50% reduced crafting option. So that would take Blight down to 12C, which is insane, because I mean, like a Rusted Blight Scarab throughout the entire league is like 1/3 of a chaos or something. It's so cheap. Plus, again, there's so many notables, you're probably going to want most of them, if not all of them. So you're going to be kind of lacking if you don't do this. Now, another thing to call out here is you could spec some of the nodes to try and force the 3 that you don't want. But again, then you really have to start thinking about the cost here. Is it worth it to spend 12C per map to spawn a Blight in to save that number of points? In some situations, maybe. In Blight's case, I don't think so. Legion, there's just too many notables here. 12C is not that crazy, but especially if you take some of them. So Legion could theoretically be good in a scenario where you're taking a bunch of nodes and you just want to save some points because you're going to be juicing up multiple Legions anyway. So this maybe could be more like a yellow, really, but it's a little bit up in the air for Legion. Ritual is just bad at 20C. My God, that cannot be worth it. It can't be worth it at 20C. Looking at Harbinger. So Harbinger is very interesting. Harbinger is the only Atlas strategy that is affected, that has a Kirac map mod for it, that has 3 notables. Meaning you can just do Harbinger and you will get all 3 of the notables. Where's Harbinger? There we go. So you got 1, 2, 3. You get this one, chance to have a powerful Harbinger boss. Boom. CDR and currency items and stacks and all that good stuff, and then your map contains additional Harbinger. You do lose the small nodes. That goes for all of these, right? You do lose the small nodes for all of these. And for 12C, this could be something to work with. I think this is definitely a viable option. Definitely something worth experimenting with at the very least, right? I mean, because again, you're going to hit all of these guaranteed, and it's on the map device, which also means you don't need to take the 7th gate to do this, right? You don't need to deal with these points. You don't need to deal with 7th gate because it's already on the map device. This could be a really interesting option. Heist is a 12C to spawn essentially a bunch of smugglers caches. There's just a lot of heist nodes. It's questionable. This could be worth, honestly, 12C is not that crazy for heist. Granted, you can get the sextants and stuff and guarantee more, and it's much cheaper. I don't think this is necessarily worthwhile. Metamorph is just 10C to get a Metamorph on there. Again, Metamorph scarabs are so cheap, and there's so many Metamorph nodes. I'm not convinced on Metamorph. Beyond is a little tricky because, again, you can get Beyond. There's not that many Beyond nodes. 3 of them are these new ones up here, right? These ones that have different types of Beyond monsters with different type of loot that essentially you're speccing into. I think that Beyond is just, it's not worth it. I think you'd rather just do the Sextant instead of dealing with this and forcing Beyond on that way and paying 10C per map, because, I mean, the Beyond Sextant, I think, last league was it's like 5C or something for 3 or 4. I think it was a 4-use Sextant, so I don't think it's worth it. Breach. So Breach is on the map device right now. Breach has 14 notables. It is the most by quite a bit here. 14 notables, and the cost is 8C. The cost is not insane, I suppose, although, again, you can get cheap Breach scarabs as well. But Breach, 14 notables, again, is in the weird spot where you've got this one, right? Like, increased chance to be Chayula, increased chance to be Ulnatol. Like, you got like these weird ones. This is 5 right here, plus this one, 6. Like, it doesn't really work. I don't think Breach, it's just too, you have to spec into so much other stuff for Breach and then just kind of like single out the 3 notables you don't want, and I think it's too dice rolly. I'm not about that. Ambush is potentially interesting. Ambush has 6 notables. 8C is pretty reasonable if that's the cost it ends up being, but 6 notables. But the thing is, you can actually hit a lot of ambush nodes pretty easily, right? They're on the way to a lot of things. So, like, for example, like this one, if you go right up the middle and you do something like that, you just grab that. That's 1 off the bat. Now you have 5. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right here. That's the remaining. So you could literally go like this. Go take these, and then guarantee these 3 on there. You do lose the smalls again, but I think it could be an interesting strategy there. Next one is Domination. So Domination has 4 notables, and Domination is in a kind of similar spot as Ambush, although it's even fewer that you need to get. So again, you could just take something like this one here. Your maps contain additional shrines, so you do get these smalls, and then you guarantee the other 4. And the other 4 are going to be this one here. You get the additional pack plus the 1 magic pack. You get the shrine buff plus the extra shrine buff, and then you get the covetous shrine. So again, you lose on the smalls, but you're already guaranteeing, right? Like, you're already guaranteeing domination on the map. So you basically are getting a lot of power out of that. I think that has big potential, and it's very easy to just guarantee 3 nodes. And you could even take a different route, right? Like if you're already close. So this takes 4 points here, but theoretically, right, if you're already here, you could just go like 1, 2, 3, like in whatever build you're doing, and save a point, and then guarantee this one, right? Like there's different options here, but I think it could be pretty cool. Essence, Palstrom pointed this out on the podcast yesterday, very powerful, because what you could do, right, again, same concept, is you just go and let's say you're already here, you just go there, you take this one for 3 points, and you guarantee the other 4 Essence notables, which are here, here, and here. Again, losing out on the smalls, but getting the notables. I think that's a very viable strat, especially Essence at 4C. That's with the multiplier. That's with the 2 times. 4C, that seems like a really, really powerful option. I think these 2, for me, are very, very clear choices to experiment with it. Harbinger as well. Everything else is kind of like a little bit on the border, because I mean the risk here is so low. 4C for Essence, come on, that's like almost unbeatable. Abyss is tricky, again, just too many notables. That's very cheap, which is nice, but there's just so many notables. I mean, there's 4 alone right up here. It's just a little dicey. I think you'd probably have to, you know, start singling out Abyss nodes to take on the tree to try and force things. But yeah, it's a little dicey. And Anarchy down here, 4 notables, 4C, very cheap. If you're going to do Rogue Exiles, it's a good option. It's just that I think Rogue Exiles are probably not going to be as profitable for most strategies late into the league. But again, this is certainly a viable option because it's so few and it's so cheap. You could certainly try that. I did have a question. I'm not really sure how this is going to work. With Fortune Favors the Brave, once you take the 7th gate, I assume that means any of the options that are available in the map device can be selected. And I do wonder whether Fortune Favors the Brave applies with circuited or overloaded circuits. I assume it does, but I don't know. And that could be some really interesting strategies. Granted, it's going to leave a lot of these ones that are pretty bad on the table. So it probably makes sense to just select the specific map craft you want to do. I'm going to have a whole link to this spreadsheet in the description. This is just theory, guys. I'm just kind of like thinking out loud, essentially. I thought you guys might be interested in having that kind of discussion. So let me know what you think in the comments. Is this something you're going to experiment with? Please do let me know. And I will catch you guys in 3.22. Let's go.